Welcome back to Tax Talk with Hey Hey, where we offer simplified tax planning and mentorship to help 6 and 7-figure CEOs ditch the daily hustle by achieving financial independence from your business by increasing your purchasing power and diversifying your source of passive income. Through financial mentorship, realistic goal setting, and simplified tax planning, without having to hustle for the rest of your life, with the guarantee of the optimal roadmap to move you towards your desired time freedom.
Welcome back to Tax Talk with Hey Hey. I am your host, Suhey Piedra, enrolled agent with Prominence Business, and we're located here in Glendora, California. Today we have the honor of having a good friend of mine. Her name's Claudia Cordova with GTS Credit.
Yes.
And so Claudia is somebody that I trust when I have questions on Credit Karma says my credit score dropped. Why did it drop? And, she's all about credit and helping you clean up stuff and, get all those ugly little cobwebs out of there. So thank you for being here, Claudia. Appreciate that. But before we get started with all of this credit stuff, I'd like to know and for you to share with our audience just a little bit about who is Claudia? What does she love to do?
Let me see. Who is Claudia? I define myself as many different little things. One, a proud mom. Ooh. I think my lifelong dream was to be a mom. I was told originally that I couldn't have any kids, and now I have two teenager boys. 15. Well, they'll be 15 and 14 July 3rd, both of them. So they have the same birthday. So I thought that was kind of
perfect timing.
Yes, not only a miracle itself to have kids, but a miracle itself to have them both on the same day, a year apart. So I always feel like God was a big part. Well, he's always a big part, right? But he was a big part of making that dream come true. So for me, I think nowadays that's my number one passion, is to be the best mom and role model that I can be. I've been doing credit repair for the last 18 years. So my passion there has always been in helping clients, helping people, looking for ways that I can be a part of some type of growth or improvement. So that's always also been a passion. I'm a bookworm. I love to read. My goal for the year was 24 books for the year to a month. I'm already at 20. Right? We're only in June. So, yes, I love to read. It's always been a great passion of mine. And pretty much any book that has like a nice cover and a nice summary on the back, I'm like, okay, I'll read it, right? So, yes. And, and hanging out with my friends. I think that being around people that we care about, that care about me, it's always a healthy way to go through life.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, we're all, my belief, right? We're here to make an impact or someone make an impact on us. And so I enjoy being around people. Yeah. So that's a little bit about who I am.
She's a lot of fun to be around. So if you're ever like, stories. Looking for somebody to have a glass of wine with, call Claudia. And I'm not kidding. When we go out, time flies. And we're supposed to just have a glass of wine. And before you know it, it's a bottle of wine. But, the conversations are good. And they're
always lots of stories, right?
But yes. And, but aside from that personal side where we have fun and everything, I always talk about there's our professional side, yes, the business side. And, credit is something that comes up with clients all of the time on my end. We're very, very, very focused on helping clients achieve those goals. And a lot of the times that goal is to, pay off debt or to buy their first house.
Yes.
And the first thing people do is pull up their credit. Lenders will look at your credit. And for a long time, I thought that, credit was like this unknown number. Like, how do you figure this formula out? And when I was very young, I did what everybody else did. I abused my credit. I had horrible credit. And then I got out of the mess I was in. And then I said, I'm never using a credit card in my life. Years went by without me using a credit card. And then I got licenses. And one of the stipulations on my license was that they couldn't give me my license, my securities license, because I had no credit. And I'm like, wait a minute. So it's not that I don't have bad credit. It's because I have no credit.
Right?
And they couldn't judge me, my person, with other people's money or with financial decisions because I had no credit.
Yes.
My job, I just could not believe that. Like, how can that possibly be? And so after that, I was like, okay, well, now I have to use credit. But nobody to guide me. So again, I made mistakes. What did I do? I went to go open like store credit, JCPenney's and Macy's and all this stuff. And they're like, no, that's not what we wanted. We wanted you to open MasterCard and Visa. And so now I'm like, oh, so here I go. So it's like all of this weird, rules behind
unknown
it.
rules.
But it's not even rules. I feel like they're judging me in a way. I feel judged. I'm like, yeah, I can't open. Well, it's not that I couldn't, right? But opening a department store card was not as good as opening like a Visa MasterCard, right? So I'm being judged in a sense. Like, no, we want you to go get an adult card.
You know, and it feels like you graduate school, right, with a report card.
Yeah.
And you think as an adult you're not going to have one. Well, hello.
Your credit
this is your report card.
Yeah,
right?
so true.
And no one tells you how to deal with it or how to use it. So you're absolutely right.
How it works. And that's what I'm trying to say here. It's more than just that number. It's how it works and how others, what are they looking at when they pull your credit, And so it was a struggle for me to figure that out on my own and make those mistakes. And then I share them with clients and be like, look, first of all, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
Credit score has this shameful, feeling behind it. You don't want to say you have a 500 just credit score. It's like, who cares? Let's just fix it if we need to fix it. Where do you need to be and how do we do that? So I brought you here to share that with the clients. Give us, some ideas of what we could do to improve and why is credit so important?
It's funny you mention all of that because I've been working independently. Well, I don't think I had a job once, right? When I was super young. And after that, I've been in sales and as an entrepreneur working self-employed, I guess you could say, for the last 30 years of my life. And when I first started, it was in the finance industry. Right. And so, of course, you sit down with clients and like what you mentioned, you look at their credit report and then you wonder, it's like, OK, why is this the way it is? And you guide, you give them information. But yet at the same time, internally, you're thinking, yeah, it's like just make your payments on time and have a little bit of credit. Don't get in debt. But that's pretty much all we know. And we relate it to finance, right? Because that's what we get taught, whether you're in school or your parents. It's like, okay, if you're going to borrow, pay it back, pay it on time. But pretty much that's all we know. So back when the market started changing, I went to a credit class. It was an all credit class. And I sat there and my mouth dropped because I was sitting there going, I've been in business talking to people about finances for the past 10 years. And I had no clue. And I was, internally I felt embarrassed and ashamed that at that level of knowledge when it came to finance, money, and how to guide someone, I knew very little about credit. And like you said, one of the first things that we get asked whenever we're going to apply for anything, and you said, you were applying for a license and they wouldn't give it to you because of credit.
Sorry, I had to pause you because I'm going to cough. Maybe drinking water wasn't a good idea. Sorry, just
it's okay.
Interrupt your thought process there.
Yeah, I'm like, where was I?
I was applying.
And the fact that I went on a divorce, no. Now I start crying. Where are the tissues?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, where do we pick up? Just
I went to a class.
I was applying to it for a license. Okay. Mm-hmm. So go.
So as you mentioned, so hey, you were applying for a license and they were looking at your credit and what was that score, right? And so when I sat there and I got all this information, it was like, I need to make it up to all my clients and I need to really learn the guidelines and I need to understand because it's very crucial. Even though we put it in the back burner, we always do, and it's human nature. Why? Because you said we feel judged. We feel like it's part of what we're doing and how we're doing it. Yet, if we can detach our emotions to that report card, I'm going to call it, then it makes it a lot easier to deal with. And so I took the time. I was passionate about learning and educating. So I started giving seminars and workshops. And when I realized that there was, a few things that I didn't like about the company because I started working with them, I left and I started my own journey. And that's when I opened up my own company. That was 18 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so for the last 18 years, I've devoted myself to educating and teaching and showing clients not just how to get better credit, the reasons why, but how to maintain it and have the education behind it. Because at the end of the day, it's the client making the payments. Yeah. It's the client managing the strategies on how they do things. And one of the things that I came to realize is how our emotions are so attached to our credit, to what we do. And one of the reasons and one of the things that I would always see is the stories behind each account and what happened. And with that, it was like, wait a minute, there's a lot more than just this number went bad or I didn't make a payment. I realized that life happens, right? Whether it's a divorce, whether it's a loss of income, health issues, anything can happen that can make us be in a position to where we were okay, we're not, but then now that we are, how do we make it better without attaching our emotions and getting rid of that guilt and that shame? Because I think internally it's more guilt and shame that we feel when our scores are like, oh God, they're going to ask me for my credit report and it's 400, it's 500, it's 600, right? And it's like score. Internally you're like, oh, please don't ask me. But you know it's going to happen, right? So one of the areas that I became passionate about was that. It's like, let's get the emotions out of the way. Let's look at the number. Let's look at what happened analytically, right?
Yeah.
And let's look at the process that I have to go through and the guidelines and learning how to separate credit from finance because they're not the same thing. And we automatically think finance when it comes to credit. Well, guess what? The industry, it's designed for us to think about it that way because it's a huge money-making world out there. The worse our credit is, the more money everyone around us is making. So I don't think there'll ever be enough education or information or guidance out there to really teach us how to do it unless we take it up on ourselves. We learn the guidelines and then we pass it forward, whether it's passing it forward to our children, to our friends, to our community, to our clients, then that's really when we're going to make the difference to say, listen, these are the guidelines. These are the rules. Follow that. You're going to have great credit. Now you can take care of everything that you're doing outside with your finances. But it starts with us. Yeah. Right? And so for me, one of those passions is let's figure out the rules. We don't have to like them. We just have to follow them. Yeah. And they're not that hard. And I have to say that also on a personal level, here, I'm going to go with my stories. On a personal level, I've been on, I'm going to say the 3 positions, right? Where back in the day in 2000, 2001, I purchased a home and I believe at the time it was like $650,000 with just credit. There was a program called NINA, No Income, No Assets. And it was just, let me look at your credit report. And if it's good, you have the house. We closed escrow in 15 days. Wow. Because my score was about 810 at the time. So they didn't ask me if I had any money in the bank. They didn't ask me if I was working or where I was. I mean, nothing. The application was just name, address, social security number, your credit report. Here's the loan. Right? Wow. And I was like, oh my God, I'm buying a $650,000 loan. I don't even know if I have a job. Right? And that was exciting. I mean, you get this sense of pride, right? Then of course, and then I, divorced, but we're not going to go there. In 2000, when I had my boys, a little bit, 2008 and 2009, when I had them, I ended up being bedridden for the first pregnancy. So I had to stop work completely. And then came the second boy, because the first was a C-section. The second one was bedridden again. So I was pretty much bedridden for 2 years. No income, no work, business went down. It was like, what do I do? So all the money I had saved up was like, okay, I either pay bills, I survive, I get to sell one of the homes and see how I do things. I mean, but everything was like, okay, I'm getting my miracles, and my life's like falling apart.
Yeah.
My credit went bad because I had to make a decision. I spoke with my attorney, and he said, Claudia, it's like sometimes it's like a business. What are you going to do? You're not working, you're bedridden, your health is in jeopardy. You need to stay healthy. So it was a decision that I had to make to say, hey, bank, come and get my BMW, and hey, bank, come and get my Jeep. And unfortunately, I lost 2 homes at the same time. So financially, I went down completely. And my score went to the 400s.
Wow.
Right? And it was like, it's like I've worked so hard for so long to be there. But yet, in back of my mind, it was like, okay, there's nothing I can do. So I need to take care of self, need to take care of the baby, the first baby, and here's another one on the way. And I'll deal with starting the business once I'm okay again. And I know how to do this. Right? It's like I do this for clients, but it's one thing doing something for a client
and then doing
versus
it for yourself.
Doing it for yourself.
All know that.
And knowing like, oh my God, how am I going to tell people they could do this when I'm like so bad? Yet when you feel at your darkest and your deepest, it's the best thing that could ever happen to you.
Yeah.
Because when I came out of that, I was more empathetic. I was more understanding. And I always feel, even nowadays, when I look at a credit report and a client comes to me and it's like, look at my mess, I'm like, oh, you have no idea. Like, this is nothing compared to how I was, right? So once I started the business all over again and I was healthy and I got things going, I started working on my credit. And I have to tell you, in about a year, it was close to a year, I was back up in the 790s. And I really thought, oh my God, this stuff really works, right? And even though I already had been doing the business for a while, but like I said, it's one thing doing it for somebody else and doing it for self to where you actually see it.
Yeah.
So that right there for me was a huge lesson, not just in life, not just in the emotions that we attach to our credit, but the fact that it works. And another thing that I realized that I'm very grateful for is that we live in a country that, even though we don't have the education on credit and so forth, but we're the only country that gives you the opportunity to go bad, rebuild, go bad, rebuild. Other countries, if you borrow and you default and you go bad, there's no second opportunities. There's no such thing as let me fix it or let me recoup or let me start all over again. They don't have that.
Yeah.
So even at that level, we live in a country with so much opportunity.
Right.
And the understanding that if I just apply myself and I can face whatever happened. Because one of the things that I've realized that stops people when they come to me, they tell me, oh my gosh, I need to fix my credit. Like, sometimes I don't even want to say I do credit repair because it's like they feel like, oh, God, like, can you see through me, right? So
you know my score.
Right? It's like you can see it. And so they tell me, well, I'm okay with my credit. Like, oh, but what about this, right? And it's like, okay, well, we could take a look at it. Yet, even though I know I need to fix it, I know I need to make it better, yet if I look at it, it's going to take me back to whatever happened that got me there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to.
Right.
So that right there holds a lot of people from actually just saying, let's look, let's strategize, let's put action. Even if it's turtle action.
Yeah.
It's still action.
It's very difficult to face it, right? Sometimes we don't have the tools that we need to clean it up. We feel defeated, right? One of the things that I tell my kids now, because you said it's about learning and then passing it on, right? Is I tell them how important it is, right? Because no one really told me how important it was. And so I didn't understand credit, and then I didn't know its value either, okay? And so yes, this country is great in that it gives you the opportunity to, if you mess up, you can rebuild, but it takes a little work. And I didn't understand all of that. So till I went through it, until I see clients go through it, and I'm like, dude, this is okay. Like, this is fixable. Like, this is how it works. But when you don't know the value behind it, where, like you said, you got a home loan with just your name, social security, and a credit score, right? That's how valuable this credit score could potentially be
to someone. Yes.
And so I still see it nowadays when people are trying to, get assets or grow their assets, and what holds them back sometimes is their credit, their debt to income, and all these other things that they look at. And I'm like, they're like, if I would have known, I wouldn't have never let it do this, or I would have been paying my bills early, or I would, because you have the ability to. You just didn't know that that's what was dragging your score down. You didn't know that, the value behind it, or that was going to prevent you from getting the next big thing.
Well, what we don't think about is what we don't see constantly. So we know that it's happening, but because it's not front of mind, you don't give it the importance, right? So I get clients all the time saying, oh, how quickly can you fix this? Because I want to buy a house and I want to buy the car. No. Right? It's like everything works on 30-day cycles. Yeah. So I could do the work as quickly as I want to or choose to, yet it doesn't work that way. Yeah. And unfortunately, we wait till we actually need something to take action. Yeah. Well, a lot of the times, that's a little too late, right? In the sense of, no, it's not going to happen. So opportunities, right? You just talked about the opportunities for a job, for a house, for an investment, for growth, for the loss of interest, right? That's one that people don't think about. It's you're losing a lot of money on interest that could be potentially in your pocket, yet because of that number, you're not getting it. Yeah. So if we, because I'm going to include myself in this, right? If we take the time to analyze it at least twice a year, right? To say, where am I? What's it doing for me? And how can I make it better? Yeah. Right? Then when opportunities come, then they truly do become an opportunity.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it's one of those things that just sounds so complicated. Like you mentioned, do this and don't do that, or what are those things that you do and don't do? And
it's very simple.
I said complicated. She said simple.
It was very simple. Piece of cake, right? No, it really is. And it's funny because in our minds, being that it holds us back, being that our emotions are attached to it, it becomes this big thing. Yeah. When in reality, it isn't. It's 5 simple rules to follow, right? To have the good scoring. And within credit restoration and credit FICO scores, it also becomes 2 separate things. And I always use the analogy of like purchasing a home and having title, right? Even though they're combined because you're borrowing money, right? And title has to be attached to it. They're 2 completely different things.
2 separate steps.
Yes. So credit is one thing, all the data, all the information, all the input, everything that I own, right? Or owe. And then FICO scoring. FICO scoring is just taking all this information and giving it a number. So when you apply for something, now whoever's looking at this report doesn't have to learn how to read every single account and determine whether you qualify or not. This number's already to say, well, 640, you fall between, you're okay, you're decent, but you're not that great, right? Or, no, thank you, right? Or, oh my gosh, like you're totally the right person, the right candidate, we're going to give it to you. So understanding that within credit, it's 2 portions, then we get to look at, okay, what is it that the agencies, right, the main credit bureaus, which we're going to talk about the main 3, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Okay. Pretty much they're data collection companies. All they do is every time you apply, you inquire, you owe a credit card, they're just going to put that information on their system. And that's a way of letting somebody know your history. And this is one of the reasons where having no credit is also not a good thing. Not owing money is not a good thing. Finance says, well, don't have any debt. Credit says, no, you need to have a little bit of debt in order for us to determine your habits, your strategies, what you do, and how you do it. Mm-hmm. Because based on that, then I can determine on a piece of paper if I can trust you or if I can't, right? And it's one of those areas that doesn't care how much money you make.
Yes.
Right? I have clients that are millionaires. And because they have somebody else making those payments, or they forgot to send a payment, or little things that they neglect to do, I'm working on their credit reports every single year.
Yeah.
And you think it's like, seriously? Like,
yeah.
You have stashes of money in the bank. Like, how could you not make this payment? Yeah. Well, it's the credit agencies don't discriminate.
I am guilty of going to a store and they'll be like, oh, you could save 20% if you open a card. And I'll be like, okay. I get my 20%. I freaking forget that I have to pay that card because it's new or because I didn't have it. Like, I don't have, the habit of paying that bill or whatever it was. And so I'm like, there goes my 20% because I just got a late fee, or my credit just, went to crap because of it or whatever. So I've had to dispute a couple of those things because I'm like, man, it's not worth me saving 20% because I forget about these cards.
Yes. And it's more harmful and it costs you more money.
Yes. So that's where I'm talking about the value. You got to understand what's more important. These stores will get you at saving 20%, but if you don't make that payment right away, there's interest, there's late fees, there's all this stuff that comes up.
And that's just with that one card, because let me stop you on that one. So one of the reasons that most of the credit card holders are in different states, it's because the regulations and guidelines give them the permission to charge whatever interest rates they want to and they choose to. So California has a usury law, right? It taps. Well, other states don't. So all the credit card holders are in those states, because even if you're in California, you're doing business with a company from that state. And every time you fall behind with one credit card, then it gives everybody else that you do business with the right to increase those interest rates automatically, because now you became a risk. Quote, right?
So that's what you were talking about, the cost. The cost behind all of this is the interest rates, going up on all of these cards because of one, like mine was an oversight, right? Yes. Paid it off. I don't owe on it anymore. I don't even have the card. I don't use it or whatever. But that, I know that is sitting in my credit because it shows that I was late by whatever time.
And it's funny you say that. So I had a client this weekend call me and said, we've had his credit at the 800s for a while now. And he says, Claudia, you're not going to believe this. He says, I had, I think it was a Banana Republic card. And they call me saying that they sent a message saying, we're going to cancel your card because you haven't used it. So that's not a good thing. So he thought, well, closing accounts are not good. It's going to affect my credit score. Okay, let me do a little purchase, right? So he bought something. And he says it wasn't even that big of a purchase. Well, he forgot, like you said, because it's not a card that he uses. It's not, the bills were supposed to be going, I guess, through email and to an email address he doesn't use anymore. 2 months go by, he's getting calls from Barclays,
an 800 number.
Right? Yes. And then he's like, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't have a Barclays, right? Until he called back and he says, why do you guys keep calling me? And they're like, oh, because of your Banana Republic. It's owned by Barclays. Guess what? 2 months behind.
Wow.
So it dropped him from 800 to 670.
Wow.
Okay. No, I'm sorry, 640. He's at 640. And he's like, you know what? I would have been better off having it closed and having a hit there versus now I have 2 months of late payments on an account because they were going to close it. So those are the little things that really impact. Now, the score is easy to drop, and it drops by high numbers.
Right.
But to gain it back, it's like
trickle.
A little process, right? 5 points here, 10 points there. Yeah. And yes, eventually you'll get there, but yet it's not designed. The system's not designed for us to have good credit. Let me just put it that way. It's never going to be.
Yeah.
Because there'll be a lot of businesses losing a lot of money.
Right.
Yet, like I said, if we follow their rules, their guidelines, then it's not that difficult. We just have to make sure we're on it, right? And that if we make those aware choices, like my client is like, oh, let me make a note to self.
Right.
Right? So these little accidents don't happen. One of the big things that we used to see before was medical collections, right? On co-payments. So co-payments of $10, $15, $25, $100. So you go, they don't tell you have a co-payment. They don't reach out to you to send you a bill, and it would go straight to collections. All of a sudden, clients with really good credit would look at the report and be like, what is this?
Yeah.
It was a co-payment. Luckily, last year, there was a new law that passed that no longer, it's not allowing medical facilities to report any type of medical bill as a collection to the credit reporting agencies. Because we were seeing a lot of this. I mean, you could have, a high 700 FICO score, a $25 collection hit, loss of 200 points.
Wow.
Now, if this client was in the process of purchasing a house, a car, or anything,
so impactful.
there goes that, right? Over $25.
Yeah.
And it's not to say this was an irresponsible client. It's not to say I didn't want to pay $25. They were never told.
It was the process.
They were never told.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, how do I get 200 points back? You don't, right? Now we have to do the turtle process. It
Can
takes
I buy
time.
200 points?
Yes, to get there, right? There's ways of doing it, yet it's not as quickly. So this is why I always talk with my clients to say, let's analyze it, like what I was telling you. Let's analyze your report once or twice a year. Even if you think or you have good credit, it's always a good idea to be have a refresher.
Well, for
right?
me now, I recommend it because of fraud.
Yes.
People go saying, I have, I don't even want to say older people. It's just people that, don't really need their credit. They're fine, and they just don't need to use it as much or don't care to use it. But, like you said, all of a sudden these calls start to come through, and it's like they pull their credit and their credit's being used. I see it with Social Security fraud with little kids.
Yes.
And so all of this could have been discovered if we just kind of kept an eye on it a little bit better. Now, with my kids, and I talk to them about credit and all that stuff, I, started telling my son as soon as he graduated high school, I'm like, here's your first credit card. It was like $300 limit. Like, you can never use more than $30 on it. He's like, what is it for then? What's the point? I'm all, you will learn.
Yes.
I made him download the app for Credit Karma. This kid thought it was a video game. He's like, oh, I got 2 points. Oh, I lost a point. Oh, I got 2 points. Oh, but he was doing it. So then, he got his real, job or whatever. He's in, graduated school and stuff. And then he got an Apple card. He's like, Mom, can I get an Apple card? I said, you understand how credit works. You've had this little credit card. You've been messing with it. You understand you can hurt yourself for a long time, right? Because one mistake today can cost you years of rebuilding. And so he's like, no, I got this. So he got, I think it was like a $3,000 Apple card. He's like, I'm not using more than $300, Mom. Perfect, But it was funny because he's like, I have all this credit to use.
And I can't use it.
But you're telling me I can't use it. I'm
You're like, it's not your money.
Well, I just told them, I wish somebody would have told me that, because I got a credit card saying $3,000, and I'm like, shoot, I can use $3,000, and I would have used $2,999 of it, And that would hurt me. Not that I was late with my payments, but the fact that I would use the credit that you gave me. Like, you allowed me to use this credit, and now I'm getting dinged for using it. It's like all these rules.
I saw this meme the other day, and it was this gentleman getting a call from a credit card saying, well, you're past due. And it's like, why? It's like, you gave it to me. You gave me $3,000, so what do you mean I couldn't use it, right? And what do you mean I have to pay it back? You gave it to me. and and it's funny because, we think it's funny, right? Because we only think of the minimum payment.
Yeah.
We don't think I'm borrowing money that
you don't have.
That, one, we don't have, because you wouldn't be borrowing it. Second, that you're going to have to pay back on things that are really not a need.
Yeah.
Right? And again, it goes back
Claudia,
to...
I'm going to challenge that.
Okay.
I'm going to challenge that because sometimes I have the money and I still rather use the credit card.
Why?
That's an emotional thing that you have to look at, right?
Yes.
And I remember that when I was very young and I was trying to get out of the debt that I had gotten into, you create these habits of wanting to use your cards, right? I had to talk to someone about this emotion that I had, that I felt like I had to use them. And then that's when that thing came up of you buy things that are unnecessary. So I'm like, look, I got to keep these people happy, but yet I'm afraid of these old habits. Like, what do I do? And they're like, buy a loaf of bread if you've got to go buy something. Like, don't go buy shoes. Buy like a loaf of bread. Buy something that you need. Do you know what I mean? Like, use it for the
I thought you meant like you don't eat the bread, but you're
no,
going to go out and
no,
buy a loaf of bread on the top.
But he was kind of trying to tell me, like, buy necessity.
Right, something that's needed.
That's needed, that you would have used either way, right? He goes, because when you think of you got to use the card and you're going to go buy something like shoes, for example, you know, he's like, yeah, maybe you can't afford those shoes, or maybe you don't need those shoes, but you just got to go use the card, or you want to go use, or you want to go spend. He's like, go to the grocery store and buy your milk and eggs and put it on credit. And I was like, oh, he's like, you're going to get rid of the emotion and the habit, you know, you're going to build different habit. So I had to do that for a little while because I felt like I had this urge to use credit, like you said, that I really didn't have or couldn't afford to, but I started using it for necessities. And that seemed to work. So, but those were things that I could share with my kids and explain to them about how I had these emotions. And I go, even till today, I have sometimes the money in my checkings account and I'll still use my card, and I'll use it with the lie of, oh, I want the points. It's like baloney. I just still want to have the money, and I still want to go use, go buy something.
I'm using somebody else's money to get what I really want.
Exactly. So it's kind of these weird things that we've got going on, but that have also been implanted in us through us, misusing our credit. And that's what I want to stop, and not necessarily stop, but you said make a change where we can dent our kids, where we can dent our clients, and show them that there is other ways.
Yes.
Credit is important to maintain. Credit is, allows us to acquire assets, allows us to grow. It's used for many different things. Sometimes you'll be amazed at when people pull your credit.
Employment.
Oh, that's right. Employment was a big one.
Promotions.
Yeah.
You could have a job, but depending on the type of job that you have, if you want a promotion, your credit needs to be up to par. And a lot of the times your job also depends on it.
Yeah.
Especially on certain industries that you're in. It's big because it shows a lot of our character, how we do, how we do things. There's a saying that says how you do the little things is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So credit is one of those little things that shows somebody else how you are going to do the little things as well as the big things. Yeah. And one of the reasons that I was really intrigued about human behavior started because of that. Why do my clients, after we get their credit to a certain level, not only do they pay me money to do it, not only do they have to pay a lot of stuff to get rid of it, yet it was for a short period of time that was kept. Even though the guidelines, the education, everything was provided to them. And they would come back again.
Back to the old habits.
And it's like, why are we here again?
Yeah.
Right? What happened to the plans? What happened to the goals? Well, it really started a thought process within me to say, okay, why? How is it that you went from here to better to now it's even worse than the first time? And you had the education and you had the knowledge now. So this second time around, you can't say, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And it became that is our behaviors. What, like you just said, right? It's an emotional attachment to how I do things for what I need at the moment. And one of the topics that I talk a lot with my team members is understanding where the other person was at the moment they made a decision and why they made it. One thing is we look at those notes, right? Like there's certain companies that tell you straight out in their contract, we're going to charge you. You're going to borrow $3,000. You're going to pay us $9,000 back. And the interest rate is like a 36%. And you're looking at this going, it's right there. Here's the contract. It's in bold writing. And you signed it.
Yeah.
And now you can't get out of it because you owe $9,000.
Yeah.
And you only borrow $3,000. So we think, because we're in a different space emotionally and mentally at the time, how could you do that?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would anybody? And then it was like, no, somebody will do it, and they know, and they're trained to get people. Why? You're in a high emotional state. You're going through something a lot deeper than the $9,000 that you're going to pay back. You need $3,000, and you need them now to fix whatever it is that you're going through that feels so heavy, so big, that the $9,000 doesn't even become a thought. It kind of becomes like an unknown. Like, yeah, I know it's $9,000 and it doesn't register, but I'll deal with it after. But the $3,000 is going to get me out of where I'm at. And this is what I need right now to fix whatever it is. When the storm passes, now you're really looking.
9,000 hits you in the face.
It hits you in the face hard. And then it comes shame, guilt, embarrassment. Because how is it that I, as an adult, signed
smart person,
that
professional
paper?
person.
Yes, I have a career. I went to school. I know how to read. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The brain, when you're in a high emotional state, the brain does not analyze.
Yeah.
So it could be $20,000 right there. And you'll be like, I don't care. I'll deal with it. I need the $3,000 right now.
Yeah.
Right? So the brain has this thing that it does to us. And the moment I understood it, the moment I shared it with my client, my teammates, to understand our clients, then it's, no, it's not that they don't know. It's not that they didn't know. It's, let's look at where they were at that made them make that decision. Yeah. And let's take away the guilt. Let's take away the shame. And let's work on the solutions in an analytical way to get out of this.
I love that.
Okay?
I love that, Claudia. I mean, the takeaway from this podcast, guys, is to share that it's fixable, that we've all been there. We've all done it. We all carry the same shame or guilt or whatever you want to call it behind this credit. You know, there's that emotion, but it's fixable.
Yes.
It's fixable with the right team, and there's no need to have this shame behind it. You know, I think the shame comes from because you think, again, I'm a professional, or how could I when I knew better, or my parents, have always had great credit and here I come with bad credit, or it doesn't really matter what's causing that shame. Just know that you're not alone, that it's fine, that we all have been there, that there's ways to get out of it. It's fixable. And there's more behind just the credit. Like she said, there's there's habits behind it. So it's not just fixing your credit, but it's looking at what's driving those emotions, those habits, to break that cycle so that we don't have to fall into this bad credit situation all over again. Because I have seen that happen. I have seen it where people fix it and then they go back and it gets worse. So it's habits. And so we really have to look at that at the end of the day. But, we want to make sure that people like Claudia, her team, can help you if you need the help fixing your credit. I will always, guide you and let you know that it's not the end of the world. We can fix this and we can still get you where you want to get to, your goals. So just know that it's something that we can work on. So, Claudia, please let our audience know, where can we locate you and if they need to reach out to you.
They could always call me direct. The number 626-824-5743. They could follow me on Facebook, gtscredit.com, Instagram as well. So, and any information that you guys want, always an email, claudia@gtscredit.com. I'm always open to answering questions, to doing the analysis, to make sure that at least we know where we're at, right? And putting a plan together. I always say we have to know the destination. What is it that we want? But we need to know where we're at so we know what routes we need to take. And
Right.
it's never a straight route, right? Yet, if we are on our way, there's always progress. There's always the process with time, right? And I was going to say, do I love my clients coming back to me? Of course, right? It was like recurring business.
They keep you in business.
Right? But yet at the same time, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't, because to me is I want people to really reach their goals. Life is very short, right? And we have wants, we have desires, we have dreams.
Yeah.
How do we make it a lot easier for ourselves, right? And if your audience wants, we could send them, you know, the 5 guidelines on how to have good FICO scores and what not to do to, you know, when the damages are there, what to do and what not to do. That's always important. Everything's a duality, right? The good and the bad. So we want to make sure that we give our clients both sides. This is what you do to be good. This is what you avoid if it goes bad, or what to do if it goes bad to get it better.
Yeah, I mean, we can, you know, definitely reach out to us. We can send you the information that she'll
Yes.
put on there. But anything else that you want to add to, you know, our audience? Share with them, what is Claudia going to be doing, or what is she doing now that she
Yes.
discovered the brain works different?
My brain, right? Our brain work. I do, you know, and based on the experiences of dealing with, I'm going to say, humans and our human behavior and our strategies, I really became passionate about learning how our brain works, how our neurology, why we do the things the way that we do them. And so back in 2018, I certified myself with neurolinguistics. And I have to say that it's been life-changing in many aspects for myself. And I feel that when we have those changes within self, then it goes around with everything that we do. So a lot of the work, even though I don't share with my clients to say, oh, we're going to work on this, right? I do, because now it's a part of me. So I opened up a second business. And, you know, just like any entrepreneur, right? It's like, oh, let me go explore something else. But I love it. I love giving workshops on mindset, on human behavior, on why we do certain things, how to change strategies, how our brain functions. And as a matter of fact, this morning I'm coming back from giving a class to the school district, to a lot of parents and students, about how to cope with stress related issues in a simple format, right? And it's as simple as to learning how to breathe, how to visualize, to know our outcome, and to be grateful for everything that we do. And automatically, the body, once you go through that process, has no other option but to respond. And so with that, to me, it became a passion as well, right? Because now it's also educating, it's giving back. And like I said, I'm a bookworm, right? So anything on brain works, and I'm like on there, and to be able to share it. And for me, I have to say that not only has it changed my career, it's allowing me to open up a second business that I'm very passionate about. I can incorporate those learnings with the first business that really puts people on track to be in a better position for their future, for what they want, not what we want.
Right.
It's for what they want.
And so that other business that you just opened up, is that how do they find out more about that?
Okay, so for that also they could follow us. It's Life's Journey to Excellence. And
Life's Journey to Excellence.
Yes. And we have a lot of workshops. And right now I'm working with Peru, Mexico, and Argentina, giving workshops in Spanish as well. And we're having our one event this coming Friday on how to deal with grief and pain.
Yeah.
Because at some point we all go through it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a death, which when we think grief, that's automatically where the brain goes. But it could be a loss of a friendship. It could be a loss of a relationship. It could be a loss of a pet. It could be a loss of self.
Yeah.
Right? Like those losses that we don't think about, because sometimes you think it's like, I feel so lost.
Yeah.
Where did I go? So, you know, it's topics like that, and always giving what to do. One of the things that I didn't like about going to events or classes is, you get all this information. Now, what do I do? How do I do it?
Yeah.
In a simple way, because I want simplicity. I want something that I can go back and apply, that when I'm not around someone, that I can still pull and use it as a tool. And so all my classes are going to be with what's the issue and how and what do we do to make it better when no one else is around.
So as you guys can tell,
Yes.
that's a whole other podcast right there, because I'm a big believer in what she's talking about. I always mention to you, emotions and habits, and we just talked about that with our credit and our business and all that other stuff. So definitely look out for those webinars, and we'll probably have to invite you back so we can strictly talk about that and not just the credit. But just know again that, there's a lot of work that could be fixed with your credit, and followed by, creating new habits and things like that. But thank you so much, Claudia, for being here.
Guys.
I really do appreciate you. And please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at prominence.services. And our website is prominencebusiness.com. Thank you, and we'll see you guys on the next one. So if your mindset is ready to excel to the next level, and you want to give up the multiple hats to a business who will support you, then schedule a call with us today. We can be reached at 626-825-8249. Please give us a review and share us with your friends and family.